Well, thank you very much. Now, it's coffee time, I should say. So maybe to complement that, can we have our coffee pots refilled, because we're going to have a coffee conversation. And with that, I'm going to invite my brother Kenneth Barigye, Managing Director, Mountain Harvest Coffee. Please put your hands together for him. Now he is going to lead the discussion, and it's going to be very interesting. I said coffee time because we're now going to explore, apart from the investment benefits of coffee, we're also going to have a smell of it as we have it in the house. And to help him and do the discussion, we have Mrs. Perez. Hope I got it right. Please come join us. A round of applause for her, please. She's the Director, Sakuma Foods Innovation. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. James Shaw, Technical Sales Engineer, Alvin Blanch Development Company Limited here in the UK. James, thank you for coming. And Honorable Charles Bakkabulindi. Your Honorable Sir, thank you very much for coming. Member of Parliament representing workers. So as I mentioned, not just a taste of the financial benefits of it, but that's also the industrial and worker relations bit of that. So my brother, Kenneth, over to you.
Thank you, Daniel. And good afternoon. I am Kenneth Barigye. I am a coffee farmer. I'm a coffee exporter, and I drink a lot of coffee to support myself. I will try with my panel this afternoon to save some time so that we are able to catch up on the lost time. Do we have Paul Rooke from the British Coffee Association? Apologies, Paul, but could you kindly, is the Executive Director of the British Coffee Association. As you well aware, Uganda is an economy that is supported by agriculture. Over 70% of But unfortunately, when you look at the number of imports that are coming from UK, we form a very small percentage. So what we are trying to discuss this afternoon is why are we not exporting more products to the UK? And what can we do to get products here? And I am fortunate that on the panel, we have people who have been working with standards, food safety standards. We have people working with machinery around agro-processing in Africa, including Uganda. We have the British Coffee Association. We would like to see more coffee coming. Just for your information, out of the $800 million that coffee brings into Uganda, UK is only giving us about 2 million. So there is huge potential and realized potential that I'm hoping this afternoon we can tap into. And then, of course, the Honorable Member of Parliament and his work in Parliament, his work with workers, and understanding what kind of regulatory framework we have in the country that could be supporting exporters and importers and producers to meet the standards in the UK. So allow me to start with the question to probably the Honorable. UK buyers have been complaining about some defects in the coffee that we have, including stones. So they say that coffee is not as clean as they should be getting. Do we have any regulatory framework provisions that you have in place, you've been implementing as a country, that could be help us meet the standards that they are looking for?
Thanks very much, dear moderator and the listeners. First of all, I think I want to create the picture more positive. First and foremost, we have got the National Coffee Act 2021. So the regulating framework is in place. The sensitization, and when we are looking about the quality of coffee, we are not looking at the coffee which is ready for exportation alone. Straight away, we start with the nursery. We start with how the coffee is being planted and looked after. The spacing of the holes and the seedlings, the collecting of the coffee and how it is dried. And this is what is ongoing, sensitizing the public. Now, and I've been hearing that our quality of coffee, as you have rightly said, is not so much attractive. It's not good. But let me give you some good figures. Among the global producers, you know very well the Brazil, Colombia, and Ethiopia, Uganda is number 9 among the global producers. And if the coffee was not good, and I think would be maybe number 100. But among, again, the coffee exporters, where Brazil and Vietnam are inclusive, Uganda is number 8. That tells that we just need to polish and improve a bit. And our colleagues from the UK and others would be attracted to come and import more coffee from our country. But otherwise, the regulatory framework is in place. The sensitization of the farmers is taking place, because traditionally, members could produce their coffee the way they want. But now, because of that quality demand, we are going down. Personally, I'm also a farmer, because I have to know how to handle the seedlings, have to know how to space it, have to know how to get it when it is ready, and how to dry it and keep it. These are some of the standards that have now been improved. So basing on that, I think our good importers must be well assured that the coffee that comes from Uganda is good. We are only competing with those first-class countries.
Thank you, Honorable. As an exporter, when I buy coffee, the only leverage I have on a farmer is provide better price. That's the only way I can influence the quality the farmer is giving me. Can a farmer get into trouble for mismanaging quality according to the laws of the country?
By the way, as we talk now, we have got the USDA, which is mandated to regulate the coffee quality in the country. And it's now coming in to see that much as some farmers may be not sensitized to the extent that we need, but before they buy your coffee, there are certain regulations or standards that you have to fulfill. And that's why it is coming in. And we're empowering it, and we're continuing to saying that since traditional coffee has been our product, the best way we can do is to add more quality and emphasize to the farmers that if we are to compete with the outside world, there is no shortcut apart from quality.
Thank you, Honorable. Let me go to Paul. Paul, I made a claim that there is no coffee here because of quality. Is it true? Is it an issue of quality or supply chain issues? Why do we see more coffee in the UK supermarkets from Kenya, from Ethiopia, and less from Uganda?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's actually a combination of the two. I mean, as you've already heard, quality is a key component, and the UK market has seen a growth in the specialty sector in the last 10 to 15 years, and there you often have a more direct trade. Quality becomes even more of an important point, but quality is important across the board. I think if we look back at the trade figures, certainly over the last years, we did see a drop-off in exports from Uganda to the UK. I think if we actually look at the figures, certainly the figures that we see for 2022, which are now full-year figures, we are back to the levels in terms of tonnage, certainly, that we saw in probably 2013. And that actually adds an extra £1 million to the figure that you were talking about to start with. So 2022 is just over 3 million. But, you know, there is still the opportunity to go further. I mean, it's very interesting. About 18 months ago, we helped to coordinate an event with the High Commission in Kigali. and we brought together some specialty coffees, I think around about half a dozen. They were roasted in Kigali. Half of that roast was then shipped overnight into London, to just only a few miles away from here. And then we ran a cupping session simultaneously with 6 experts in Kigali and 6 in London. And it was extremely interesting that the results from both of those sessions were very close together. So the quality was not an issue at all in the samples that people were cupping on that occasion. So the quality, certainly Uganda has the ability to produce quality and high quality Arabicas. I think on the back of that, it is then about having the conversations and building the relationships within the supply chain. You know, unfortunately, it doesn't matter what commodity you're talking about. You can't simply expose it to the market and then hope that you're going to get the price that you want. You have to start to build relationships with your customer to understand more clearly what they're looking for. Because whether it's a specialty market or whether it's the market generally, quality is a key component. So, you know, the opportunity is there and Uganda has the ability to deliver that. I think it is about taking some of the issues that have been talked about before and making sure they're not the exception, but they are the rule. And then I think, you know, we start to see no real barriers in Uganda improving its flow of coffee into the UK. At the end of the day, I think we're very clear. The UK imports coffee from around about 50 different countries. We want to keep importing coffee from that number of countries. We don't want to drop anybody off. It's not to our advantage to see that diversity of supply diminish at all. So, you know, we need to keep all of our origins producing and delivering into the UK.
Thank you, Paul. I'm sure the government team is happy to note that coffee produced roasted at origin still came with its quality integrity. And that could be a huge opportunity for us. We know that our President Museveni, has been promoting and asking coffee exporters to add value at origin. So I'm glad to hear that there is potential. But we also know that for you to bring roasted coffee into an economy like the UK, there are very serious food safety standards that you have to meet. And this allows me to go to Mrs. Perez. I know that you've been successful bringing ready-to-consume products into the UK, and I would like to request you to share lessons that we need to focus as a country if we are to continue tapping into the ready-to-consume market in the UK.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. I'll look at it from 2 perspectives, as a consumer and a retailer or a distributor of a particular product imported. So, as has been said, quality is key. You know, consumption and customers want to put quality first. But I think what we are failing to understand is the global perspective. You know, we do not live in isolation, whether we are importing coffee from Uganda, you're growing coffee in Uganda and you want to export it to UK or other global markets. There are other things that are coming into play that every coffee farmer or processor or exporter as a middleman or whatever you want to call them really need to put into perspective. And that is, first and foremost, what are the green skills? We've heard of all these meetings about COP22, COP27, COP28, I don't know where we are now. And there's a big push on sustainability. So the consumer trend now is looking at doing good. And they do not have that opportunity to be the growers, but they want to know that they're consuming a product that is doing good. And so they look at sustainability in 2 concepts. Are you paying your farmers a fair price? That is one. But they're also looking at sustainability in terms of your process and farming methods. And there's one thing that I want to raise, and I think I've raised this before in our previous meetings, is that the lack of green skills and innovation in everything we are doing from any part of, I say, for example, third country, Uganda we are talking about today, is a key barrier to accessing new markets. So when you talk about, say, for example, the technology for fermenting coffee, look at the amount of water we use for fermenting coffee. And you're coming into a world where they're going to ask you, tell us how you're using natural resources sustainably. Water is one of them. Energy is another. And human skills is another. So to what extent is your product involving innovation in terms of improving the process methods? And I want to mention one example that I mentioned before. We don't need to ferment coffee using water anymore. There are technologies that exist, like using goji berries. I don't know if somebody has explored that. How do we make your product attractive to the trend of the market that you're looking for? And also there's the issue of what do you do with the waste that comes from your processing of coffee? Big industries or upcycled products are becoming a trend globally. Are we using the waste from coffee to upcycle to produce something so we have a complete circularity of the coffee process? And the consumer is looking at this. They are very knowledgeable. All you need to do is touch a QR code and they have all the information in their hands. So these are some of the barriers, waste management, upcycling, the technologies we are using. And all this is embedded in the fact that we are not allowing producers to be innovative, to come up with solutions that are not necessarily science-driven and knowledge transferred from Europe, which is the market you're trying to compete against, but in empowering the individual smallholder farmers and their processors and everybody along the supply chain to be innovative so that you're coming up with products that are unique. Coffee becomes an ingredient. Coffee is no longer just a beverage. It's an ingredient to medical products. We have mushroom coffee. I brought samples from him with some of this. So coffee can be used innovatively, not just as a beverage. So, but this only comes with science and innovation and how the local universities are building all this in continuous research so that you're coming up with new ideas. Why do you want to do what other people have already done? You're going to break through in the market with new ideas. So use your coffee to come up with new ideas. And I think this is a big barrier. Innovate, come up with new products that people have not heard before. It's still coffee, but it's an ingredient and a raw material. It's not just for beverage and other stuff. So shall I stop for them?
Thank you. And allow me now to invite Mr. Otto Cannon to join the panel. Mr. Otto Cannon is a UK representative to the World Sustainability Organization. Okay, thank you. I've been informed that Otto will make a presentation after the panel. But let me go to James. James works with the company that produces machinery and systems for processing, which we know as Africa, as Uganda, aims at increasing products processed at home. It's a huge opportunity. So I would like to request James, first of all, start by talking about briefly the products that you do produce and sell in Uganda or Africa, but then also help us talk about why we have low uptake of processing technology and systems in countries like Uganda and what we can do to change that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so as I said, my name is James. I work for a company called Alvin Blanch. We're a manufacturer of agricultural process machinery. So machinery basically from the post-harvest and processing of the equipment. So increasing the quality and increasing the quality. Increasing the quality of the grains post-harvest after being harvested. So we've been exporting into Africa for the last 40 years, in particular Uganda for that period as well. Because we've been exporting across Africa for so long and into several countries, both in East, West and Southern Africa, We've got that experience of understanding the farmers and how the different environments the different countries have in terms of their agricultural practices. So, for example, in terms of small scale and large scale, we've found that Southern Africa, we've got quite a lot of more large commercial farmers with lower human input and more mechanization, whereas countries in your West Africa and countries in East Africa like Uganda, there's a lot more human input and less mechanization. And as a result, sometimes there is an issue of quality that stops the small-scale farmers getting the best value from their products. So in terms of why there's been such a low uptake, sometimes one is education. Because in Uganda especially, there's lots of small-scale farmers. The image is that agricultural mechanization equipment is only suitable for the larger scale farmers. So therefore, higher upfront costs. The smaller farmer can't, purchase that sort of equipment and invest into that to help, either increase their production or increase the quality of their products to get higher money for their grains. But from what we've found, that's not necessarily true. Because we, as a company, we have a full range of equipment. So basically, from larger government-style grain storage facilities, all the way down to your small-scale, family-run farm in rural Uganda or rural Africa. So we have the range of equipment and also the range of budgets to suit that sort of, their individual stage of their agricultural, development or as a farmer producer. So I think mainly, it's that sort of education to say that you see these larger mechanization is only geared up for the larger producers, where in actual fact it's not. There's opportunities for the smaller producers to increase their quality, increase their the mechanization for a very relatively low capital cost.
Thank you, James. As a coffee processor, one of the reasons I'm not buying your machines, or any machine for that matter, it's the cost of money. Money in my country, you're talking about 20% and above interest per annum, and that makes it difficult for me as a processor to invest in that kind of technology. That brings me to a question, Honorable Member of Parliament. We've heard about the Trade Frontier Fund that the government is planning to put in place to finance exports. I would like to ask you to share with us, what is that fund about? Who will access it? Can the Ugandans in the diaspora come and access it? So kindly share with us more about the Trade Frontier Fund.
Well, I may say, first and foremost, let me talk about coffee, if I'm talking about that fund. I don't recall that we have a coffee fund for exporting. What I know, those who are exporting coffee, they borrow money from the financial institutions, including banks, at commercial rates. And they can be facilitated in different ways. But when it comes to the general trend of what we are talking about, the fund, yes, the idea was floated and adopted. I think about $10 million was put aside. What is waiting for now is the guidelines on how to implement it. So that goes ahead to answer your question of who should access that will qualify according to the regulations, which are not yet finalized.
Thank you, Honorable. You've talked about the availability of finance in the local banks, and Honorable, we are borrowing at 20-24%, or if I am lucky to borrow from the government bank, UDB, at 12%. You also know, if we are to speak about coffee, that 80% of coffee in Uganda is bought and exported by multinationals. These multinationals are borrowing money at 4% or even below that in their domicile economies. So you have 80% of the coffee purchased with money that is very affordable. We are buying coffee from the same farmer. We are exporting coffee to the same market-controlled pricing. How do you expect us as Ugandan investors to succeed within such an economy?
I think you have raised a very pertinent question and which needs our putting heads together. And that's why I'm saying the idea of the fund was floated, adopted, and a certain figure of about $10 million was put aside. What has been remaining now is the guidelines. I think we need to facilitate that so that we can assist the local exporter or producer to compete with others who will be borrowing money at a lesser interest rate from other countries.
Okay, thank you. I would like to go to Paul. You heard the Commissioner General of URA talking about the priority sectors that attract incentives. And top among them, it's agro-processing. Also, the president of the country has been convincing all of us to stop exporting green and producing, adding value in our country, well knowing, and we agree with him, that will create jobs. It will also increase the value when you think of price per kilo. Now, to you, as a member of the British Association in a consuming country, I'm just putting a straight question to you. Is it feasible? What do the market, what is the market demanding?
Is it feasible? Yes. I think the question then is at what scale? A lot of roasters roast near the point of consumption because they can A, maintain the quality, and B, they can reduce the sort of the time between roasting and point of consumption, again coming back to quality. I think certainly when you look at other sectors, and I have only relatively recently come into coffee. I've spent most of my life in other parts of agriculture. When you look at other sectors, the successful ones are where they are operated in conjunction with a partner. Now, that partner may be a UK-based company, maybe an EU-based company, maybe a US-based company. I think there are opportunities there to look at how you can work with a partner who is then satisfied that you are delivering to the specification that both they want and their customers want. But I think, what you can't lose sight on in all of this, certainly from a UK market, is if you're looking at the products that are eventually going into the multiple retail sector, then that multiple retailer has a very close eye on the sort of quality and has great expectations, and their expectations are largely met by maintaining that sort of quality control where, essentially where they can see it. So it is possible, but I think people need to have a clear understanding of why they are doing it, what their ultimate aim is, what their market is, what else they're doing to ensure that they can meet all of the parameters that market is looking for. I think the other point, of course, is, the UK consumption per head of coffee is around about 2 kilos a year. It is well below the European average, but it's probably double the Ugandan coffee consumption. So, for a lot of origin countries, the other question is how do you improve the value by essentially improving the size of the market in your own country as well. So I think that is another part of the discussion about generating value and keeping it within the country.
Thank you, Paul. The opportunity on partnership is very interesting, and before we close the panel discussion, I'll be requesting one of the roasters called Master Roasters in the UK to comment about such opportunities. But also, as Ugandans who are doing business in the UK, you're now hearing about these opportunities for partnership. Allow me to go back to James. James, we would like to see an increase in the reach of the extensive product range that you have or other processors that have. We would like your advice, given your experience in the Africa market, especially to our government, to our MPs, to our business community. What should we be focusing on?
Yes, thank you. So, as I said a minute ago, because we've got such an extensive range of equipment from your large-scale government-style silo facilities all the way down to your smaller local, farmers, it's important, especially at the lower range of, equipment sizes and small-scale farmers, is to allow them to operate on a wide range of crops. Half the year they might do maize, half the year they might do sorghum or beans. So it's important that the equipment provided to them is not just suitable for one crop, but you've got a variety of different options they can use, and that allows more options for them. And also allows them to use the machine more often. So you're not just using it for one season of the year; you're maximising the output of the equipment and getting your money's worth as well for the farmer. And also because of the equipment that we provided, or have provided in Uganda and East Africa, because you've got that local support as well, we can provide that education to the farmers. If they've only produced maize before, our engineers in the country can show them how they can adapt the machines and how calibrate them to work with beans, for example, to help them educate and get more value out of their products as well.
Okay.
And because we've got so many different, styles of system in Uganda, there is that ability to, take one farmer group to that particular small scale group, or that sort of medium-sized farmer group to the larger facility, to see where they could, in 5 years' time, they could be going from their medium-sized production facility all the way up to more and a larger silo facility. So there is scope of opportunity for expansion of farmers in Uganda.
Thank you, James. Last question to Mrs. Perez. It's about pricing. So for coffee farmers in Uganda, we are very fortunate in an unfortunate way. The Ugandan coffee gets paid about 80, sometimes 90% of the FOB price. So the trader, the exporter, transporter is only sharing about 20 to 10%. Now, unfortunately, this is a high portion of a very low price when you compare to the coffee prices in Ethiopia, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi. Now, my question to you, Perez, it's how can our agriculture sector improve its positioning so that we start attracting prices that can make agriculture profitable and viable for smallholder farmers?
If you're talking agriculture in general, I would assume you're talking about all agricultural produce.
That's good.
That's a tough one because every product has its own, I would say, post-harvest handling technologies. It's got different people along the supply chain. But if I was to talk blanketly, just trying to get products into other markets, a lot of it has already been talked about here today. You start from processing equipments that are certified. The farmers or the processors are trained to use those equipment. So they are not just operators of the machine, but they're also technicians. So they can work with the manufacturers of the machine to modify them to their suitability, for their different products. And then you're talking about supply chain management, where the whole supply chain understand that they will only exist and succeed as a chain, as it says. So individuals, because what I've seen a lot of people when they come to promote different products like coffee, everybody is trying to push their brand individually. So at some point we're talking about Uganda coffee, and then we'll be talking about some coffee, maybe Gorilla coffee or another coffee. And so every brand is pushing into this market with very limited resources for marketing. So at some point, all the coffee growers and all the other different producers would have to come together to collaborate and agree that we are going to have one message to enter into the market. And so they begin to empower themselves, to align themselves to be a force into the market they're coming into. And then I've talked also about managing the processing and quality control. A lot of people and a lot of farmers or a lot of people who are trying to export assume that testing in the laboratory is what defines quality. Actually, the quality starts from farming all the way on the handling until you process, you package, and in whatever form that your consumer or your buyer wants it. So market knowledge is also important. So you start from one end, what does the market want? What can we produce? And in between here. And in this way, then you're going to be able to control and manage prices. Because at this moment in time, even with export costs and all the wars and the problems, it's almost impossible to predict what your prices are going to be. Because the movement of goods has become almost unpredictable. We have the issue of energy and petrol and production. So the world in itself has become unpredictable, but you want to be able to manage your prices so that you can compete. And this will require collaboration and understanding of the market, the production, and the whole process so that you are able to manage your costs.
Thank you.
And an active working, as I said before, I keep defining this and I keep insisting that involvement of the local academic is really important. Because when you talk about simple things like even supply management, leave alone technology and innovation, you need the input of the academic sector to enable them to do things differently, reskill themselves and do things differently.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Before we take the questions, I would like to alert the Commissioner General of URA. You provide a lot of incentives for people who come to invest in Uganda. Every year, a small company spends 100,000 marketing Ugandan products outside Uganda. So as they ask questions, I would like you to comment and tell us the incentives that you provide for us who go and spend to market Uganda, just after the two, three questions.
Thank you very much. My name is Robert Kavuma. A few years ago, Uganda left the ICO, I think in protest. Has that been in vain, or has there been any progress due to that? Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And that Honorable will take that question.
When finished.
Please take three more.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon. My name is Linda Bond. I'm from Uganda, Jumani. I have a farm actually in Jumani, and I assume I'm one of the first people who bought threshing equipment, crop thresher from Alvin Blanch. And we have been in progress since 2014. We invested quite a bit, tried to mechanize and other things. But my question is, one is about VAT, because we paid quite a lot of VAT when we imported equipment to Uganda, like a low bed pickup that would work in the farm. Of course, we didn't pay for tractors and caterpillars to clear the land. But because we're here, I'm just asking a question as to how, because we are training people in Ajumani. We have a farm, we are growing rice, maize, and we are actually threshing the maize on the farm. But we are just asking a question how the government can actually point us to the right place and how we can link with Alvin Blanch and also promote the farming there. And the second thing is about how can we claim back our VAT that will go to URN. We paid quite a hefty amount because I know probably there's no self-assessment or VAT returns or something like that. I would like to understand more about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
I think mine will go to the British Coffee Association. A simple Google search will show you that Switzerland is a major coffee exporter. I don't think they have any farms in Switzerland. And in Uganda, some of the big players are, companies like Volcafe or Sukafina, who have spent $10, $20 million to invest in Uganda, buy the coffee, process it, grade it, and then export. Would it be possible that some of the coffee that is finding its way into Britain is actually exported by Switzerland, but originating from Uganda? Thank you.
And it just occurred to me that us leaving ICO, the best person to respond is the buyer. Is it a problem if we are not members of ICO?
I'm just trying to determine how honest I should be in giving this answer. I mean, from my own point of view, I think all coffee-producing countries should be in ICO and helping to push change. I appreciate that ICO has sometimes been likened to the proverbial oil tanker. It takes an awful long time for it to turn around. I think my experience of certainly parts of ICO in the last 18 months have suggested that some of the criticisms that have been aimed of it are being tackled, and we are seeing a more proactive organisation than we have in the past. And I think there are certainly desires within ICO to go further and to do more. Clearly, it has to manage the expectations of the rest of its membership, which are obviously all of the countries. So I don't think it has been in vain. It may be that some of the issues that Uganda raised have actually been dealt with and would have been dealt with anyway, potentially. But I would certainly much prefer to see Uganda coming back into ICO as soon as possible. I may as well pick up the Swiss question as well while I'm here. Yeah, an awful lot of coffee goes through Switzerland, not physically, but certainly on paper. And a lot of the companies that are based there, in grains, in oilseeds, Geneva, Switzerland is a central hub for some of the big trading houses in the world for a lot of commodities. So in answer to your question, yes, it is. I think it's inevitable that some of the coffee from Uganda is essentially, certainly from a paper point of view, moving through, and those figures have increased again in the last few years. But it's it's a paper chase. Yeah, I agree with you. There are not many coffee farmers in Switzerland that I'm aware of.
I just want to supplement.
Yeah, thank you.
On what he's
and
saying.
As you supplement, talk about. You've been telling us that UCDA is going to the ministry, so it's also linked to ICO. Everything is coming out of everything.
You know what is very interesting? That when we liberalized the economy, we went wholesale. And we did not put limits and stringency to particular countries on how we are going to liberalize the economy on different products. Now, coming back to what he was saying about Switzerland looking to be one of the great producers, I'll give you a very simple scenario related to coffee. I happen to be on the committee of COSASA in Uganda. We went to Mombasa and visited all the stores of tea. And you know very well that Uganda has got the best tea products. We were so shocked that even the tea that was coming from Uganda was bagged and labeled sister countries, ready for exportation. So when I hear that Switzerland can export something that it has got from Uganda, it is possible until we come with new technologies to limit that. I'm not saying that it is saying so, but it is possible. Now, coming to the question that you have asked me, which is a bit tricky and interesting. When my colleague Madam was talking about coffee, and you are saying that we should look at coffee as a global perspective, not only as a beverage, but as a product can be used in different items. When you look at use CDA being in the Ministry of Agriculture and being streamlined, first and foremost, the current law gives the mandate to use CDA to be the only regulator of quality coffee in the country. But at the same time, the government has got the right to change the current law. And according to the government, when it was talking of merging different entities, not only UCDA, it was looking about reducing the cost and avoiding duplication. But here is the trick. UCDA is concerned about the quality. And in order to merge it or to streamline it, you need to repeal the law first. That is also another process. So my question, to answer you, the answer is yes and no. If it is being streamlined and you maintain the quality and the motivation of the human resource, and you achieve what you want to achieve at the international market, then streamlining will not have a problem. But if it is going to be streamlined and be embedded within the ministry with a lot of other assignments, it may lose the quality that we need.
Thank you. The government chief whip is here. you're hearing they want us to do better. It's not the time for us to compromise even where we are. We had Matthew Mills from Master Roasters. There was a question about Switzerland, getting coffee from there. Why do we see roasters preferring to get coffee from re-exporting countries and not directly from producing countries?
Hi, good afternoon. I don't really think this is an issue or a problem because your export registration numbers from Uganda straight to the UK remain clean either way. It's just a financial transaction between a head office in Switzerland. The physical transportation comes straight into the UK, so it's not a re-export. So I don't think that really confuses the number at all.
Okay, thank you. So that we shouldn't be worried that Ugandan coffee is coming through a Swiss company. We hope that the price that the UK buyer is paying to the Swiss buyer who is buying coffee from Uganda is still favoring the Ugandan producer. Commissioner General, as the last comment.
Thank you very much. First question was on the branding company that is doing a great job for Uganda. What benefit? One, I've already mentioned the benefits that every company will take advantage of, whether they are doing branding or any other thing. We'll allow all your expenses and will not charge you where you've not earned an income for a period. However, depending on the platforms and channels you are using to brand, there are some exemptions under ICT, and that is not to advise you to make yourself ICT if you're not. But I know that some of the companies that are using ICT platforms can get further exemptions under that channel. So we could look at your business model, see the channels you're using, and advise you on what else you can take advantage of. But even without being more ICT inclined, you can take advantage of the general benefit. And we definitely appreciate the branding because the beauty and the potential of our nation, the beauty and the potential of our nation is great. What is missing is selling out this information to the public. I studied here about 20 years ago, and I remember every time I walked into somebody and in an exchange I mentioned I'm from Uganda, the only brand they knew about Uganda then was Idi Amin. Is he still alive? Now some people have stayed in that historical hangover. Idi Amin has since gone to be with the Lord or wherever he could have gone. Uganda has been on a very positive trajectory, and it is one of the most favorable investment destinations. So keep up the good job. Now, there was a question on VAT refund, and I will get more if I miss or I didn't get. But if the issue is a delayed refund, it could be for one or two reasons. One of the reasons is before we refund, we are required by the law to do an audit. So I would like to hear from you, has an audit been done on your company? If it has been done and the refund has not come through, then that is some delay on our part, which can also be caused by either insufficient, because we have a limited refund budget. But as we improve the accuracy of our ledgers, the refunds will be more automatic. So I will pick from you, my sister, the issue, and I'll look at your specific company and we'll be able to make good your refund. It is your right. VAT is a consumer tax. You collect, you pay, and the difference is what you pay. So you collect and you spend, the difference is what you pay. So if you have collected less and paid more, it is your right to be refunded, and I'll gladly look at your case and give you a feedback.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Lastly, for the Ugandans based here who would like to invest in coffee, there is an opportunity now in the country where the government is providing, will contribute 30% of your costs. If you have 10 to 20 acres of land that you're willing to grow coffee, above 20 acres, you will get 40%. This opportunity runs I think applications are due end of this month. So please, if you're Ugandan and you have some land in Uganda, make sure you go and invest in coffee production. Please join me to thank our panel this afternoon for sharing with us. Thank you so much. Good afternoon.